Real quick, before I get going, can anybody tell me what tomorrow is, besides Wednesday, October 3rd?
It's the 25th anniversary of Black Hawk Down.
There we go, 25th anniversary of Black Hawk Down. So, for some of you, you're like, what is that? Some of you are like, wow, I can't believe that's been 25 years. And the reality is, 18 guys, special operations soldiers, lost their lives 25 years ago tomorrow. I believe you had one of them come speak before, Major Jeff Struker. Speaking of, y'all did just briefly talk about some past speakers. Y'all have had the governor, Brody Kroll from Alabama, runs Big Oak Ranch now, Danny Werfel, I believe. I'm up here today to let you know that you don't always catch a big fish when you go fishing. So not every day is a highlight day, so y'all can just be humbled in that. But seriously, today I do want to talk to you about what those guys experienced 25 years ago tomorrow and how it was true for them in Mogadishu, Somalia, the same way it was true for me in southern Afghanistan, and the same way it's true for each and every one of us today right here in central Mississippi. And that is the fact that first, you were made to be a warrior. You were created to be a warrior. Second, is there is a fight out there. There's a war out there, whether you like it or not. It's out there. But third, and really the question I have for you is are you prepared for when your Black Hawk goes down and you're in the fight of your life? Because it will happen at some point. And so perhaps right now some of you are going, hold up, guy. You're talking about Black Hawk Down. I just heard your story briefly where you almost died. You're going, that's not me. I don't have a war bone in my body. Relax. That's the example. That's the classroom, so to speak. That's not really what I'm here to talk about. That's not, the battle itself, the physical, altercation, the physical combat is not why I'm here. That is just the classroom of where truth has been learned for thousands of years, much like the ball field is. Because you see, we can teach things and you can learn them from an education perspective, but to truly understand and learn some things, they have to be experienced. You see, there's a big difference between education and experience. And so that's why I want to kind of start there. Real quick, I've got some friends back there. Let me take that back real quick. I've got some guys that walked in as my friends. They might not leave here as my friends. Real quick, Dave, will you stand up, please? Dave, can you tell me your favorite song? Dave was not coached on this, by the way, or prepped.
Favorite song.
What is your favorite song? Or one of your favorite songs, perhaps?
We'll use Eye of the Tiger.
Eye of the Tiger. Awesome. Chris Kellum, will you please stand up? Chris, what is your favorite song?
Nights Like These.
All right, can you sing that for us?
Yeah, I don't know that I want to say.
Ekes it out, yeah. I asked the same question. The only difference was I asked Chris to sing. That would have been a completely different experience than standing up and telling a room full of y'all, hey, here's my favorite song, versus standing up and having to sing your favorite song. But the reality is, Chris sings all the time. We all sing all the time. How many of you sing in the car? I sound just like Garth Brooks when the radio is turned up really loud. How many of you sing in the shower? It just comes natural. You're terrible in the car and in the shower, just like we'd be terrible right here. Or you can sing right here. Either you can sing or you can't. The reality is the circumstance doesn't dictate the truth, but it's experienced differently. It's not necessarily just taught or learned. Well said and well done are two different things. And that's the question, that's the thought, I should say, that really haunted me and really kickstarted my story, is as a freshman in college, I knew a lot. I had heard a lot of truth, but I hadn't really experienced it. And so for the first time, I asked myself, when I got down to the end of the road I was headed in life, is this where I wanted to end up? when I got there and looked back, would I go, man, I'm glad I did that? And I couldn't answer that question. I couldn't answer that question confidently. And honestly, I said, okay, I have to make a change now. And so I tore down a wall that I had built up that said this was, the military was something other people did. It was something I read about. It was something I watched. It wasn't something I could do. And I had to tear down that wall and pursue, a passion and a dream of mine. And for me, that experience really began when I did end up in Afghanistan in 2010. A little context, because I believe context is important. If I start screaming at you to get out of here right now, you're going to think I'm crazy unless the building's on fire. And then you're like, oh, okay, that's a nice guy. Context. So 2010, the 101st Airborne Division was headed to southern Afghanistan and eastern Afghanistan. That was the first time the whole division had been deployed as a unit since the beginning of the war. But it was also the first time that a brigade-size element, so that's a big fancy word for 3,000 guys, a brigade-size element would be sent to southern Afghanistan. RC South in Pashmul, Afghanistan, where we were, was the birthplace of the Taliban. Mullah Omar, the founder of the Taliban, was born in a village across the street from where we would live. We replaced a Canadian battalion, about 800 soldiers, with roughly 3,000 soldiers. And of that, not because we were any fancier or any better, but just literally by luck of the draw, Bravo Company, which I was a part of, would be the first company, 100 guys, again, fancy word for 100 guys, would be the first 100 guys of those 3,000 to head into that area with the simple mission of, hey, we're going to start pushing out. 2010, I'm thinking, hey, it's going to be an awesome deployment. Facebook, Wi-Fi, play some Xbox Live, it'll be cool. And literally our brief was get ready for snail mail. And I was like, wow, what? But it really was. An area labeled the Heart of Darkness. Of those 100 guys that left Fort Campbell, Kentucky, 10 would be killed and over 40 would be wounded. I'm not a math major. You might have picked up on that by the way I talk. Stats aren't my thing, but that's every other person. So if we're going around the room, it's every other person. Somebody's going to get hurt, somebody's going to get killed. On that deployment, the 502nd would be awarded its 5th Presidential Unit Citation. Our unit got one in Normandy on D-Day, Battle of the Bulge, Bastogne, 2 in Vietnam, and this would be the first in the global war on terror. The 5 months in Afghanistan would be the bloodiest 5 months of the war to date. The Heart of Darkness really was that. And for me, the learning curve was not necessarily, hey, this is war and this is what I thought it would be like, and, hey, I'm a soldier now and I want to be a G.I. Joe and now I'm getting to shoot a gun and people are shooting guns at me. That wasn't the big picture. For me, combat was that classroom. For 21 years, I had heard truth. I had heard truth from my great-grandfather down to my father, to my grandparents, to all the men that I admired growing up, to coaches, to teachers. I had heard truth of leadership, of life, of caring for people, of doing the right thing, even when it's hard. But I'd never experienced that in a way that really mattered until I went to Afghanistan. And that ultimately changed my life physically. Obviously, you heard some of that. I was on the wrong end of a rocket. I was on the business end. And as a result, spent the next 1.5 years in a hospital in Washington, D.C., 6 months of which would be in a hospital bed where I would have 41 surgeries, putting everything back together. I look better in person than I do on paper, and I look a lot better in person when I'm wearing long sleeves than I do short sleeves. So I'm all right. But it was in that process that I really learned what it meant, again, to be a warrior that I was created to be. That there was a fight out there. There was a battle out there. Even when I got home, there's still a battle out there. And that ultimately, all right, a Black Hawk just went down. What am I going to do? I'm in the fight of my life. Now what? And so that's really what I want to talk to you all about today is really and truly that sense of the word combat leaders, that sense of, again, take that experience that we just had a second ago. You can get up and tell somebody your favorite song, no issue. But to stand up and sing it in front of a bunch of people that you don't know, or worse, that you do know, it's pretty challenging. Still simple, not easy. And you see, and that's what the truth was in combat that I learned was truth is still truth, and it's still simple. But sometimes it's extremely hard. And we live in that each and every day. And so if you're going to answer that question and say, yeah, I want to engage in the fight. Perhaps your Black Hawk has gone down, maybe at home. Maybe it is in your marriage. Maybe it's with kids. Maybe it's with an ex-spouse. Maybe it's with stepkids. Maybe it's at work. If your boss is here, don't shake your head. Maybe it's a boardroom, committee. I don't know where your battlefield is. I know you got one. And so if you want to engage and you want to become a combat leader and an effective leader in difficulty, somebody that people look to and admire, especially when things get hard, especially when chaos is on the horizon, there's some simple truths that you can live out. And I want to tell you a couple. There's 6 that I say that I saw and I witnessed for the first time, really and truly, in Afghanistan, that I have now connected so many times to so many different people who have nothing to do with the military. So hear that out. I say the word combat leader, and I learned it on a battlefield, but for some of you, you've seen it perhaps in a church, in a business, or at home. The first is this: combat leaders move on and don't have pity parties. Combat leaders move on. We have a joke and we laugh, and some of you might think we're crazy, and okay, we are. But like we had the mentality literally, hey, he's dead. All right, you're up. Huh? Like to hear a first sergeant, somebody who's 34 years old, go and say, hey man, I know that dude was your buddy, and I know he just died, and we're going to send all his stuff home, and I want you to go in the corner for an hour and cry and do what you need to do, but guess what? We're going on patrol at 5 o'clock. 1700. That way you know I'm not lying to you. And that's the reality. Can you be sad? Yes. Can being sad stop you from doing what you need to do? No. Not if you're going to be an effective combat leader. Not if you're going to be effective on the battlefield and make a change. Move on. Don't have a pity party. Second, combat leaders don't waste energy worrying. Live in your 3-foot world. If you can touch it, do something about it. If you can change it, change it. Attitude, character, perspective, toughness, all that, change it. If you can't, don't waste time thinking about it. All you're going to do is just spin wheels. You're going to be running on a treadmill for a long, long time. Live in your 3-foot world and own it. If you own it, you can handle the circumstances. Third, combat leaders embrace change and welcome challenge. Combat leaders embrace change and welcome challenge. Was that the only thing certain? The only thing not going to change is change that inevitable, whatever that old tagline is? Embrace it. Welcome it. It's going to happen. Don't fight it. Fourth, combat leaders are fair, kind, and decisive. Best place to make a decision is right after you've taken one step. Because either you're going to go, yes, that's the direction we need to go, or no, wrong way. Abort. Get out. Be decisive. Be fair and be kind at the end of the day. Fifth, combat leaders take risks. Combat leaders take risk. And what stops us from taking risks is the fear of failure. At the end of the day, I mean, that hesitation of, I don't want to mess up. I want to make sure it's a guarantee. But you see, there's only 2 types of pain you'll ever experience in life, in everything you go through. The first is failure. My arm failed in Afghanistan when a rocket hit next to me. I've failed a test or a couple dozen before in life. Business perhaps has failed for you. A relationship maybe has failed. Eventually your body will fail. You will die. Those we can learn from and move on, ultimately, until we die. And that's it. Second type of failure Second type of pain, aside from failure, is regret. I wish I would have. If only I had. Man, I wish I had told him that. Man, I wish I wouldn't have told him that. And I can tell you, as someone who's gotten up off his deathbed, and also somebody who has had conversations with those on their deathbed, they don't talk about the failures. On their deathbed, I've never heard an 85-year-old man talk about that business deal that went south in 1951. I've heard him talk about the regrets of the people in his life, the things he wished he would have said, the time he wished he would have spent. And as somebody, again, on a litter, getting medevaced out going, well, this might be it. I promise you, I didn't think about any failures I had in life. I thought about faces. Man, I wish I had said that. Man, if I get the chance to, I'm going to say this. So you want to be an effective combat leader and you want to be successful, fail more. Fail at life. Don't regret it. Sixth, combat leaders think of themselves last. Not think of themselves less. Think of themselves last. At the end of the day, it's an easy decision when you haven't eaten all day and you get an MRE to share it with the guy next to you who also hadn't eaten all day. Or better yet, if you're a parent and you go to grab a piece of bubble gum and you know it's the last piece and you hear your kid, Daddy, can I have a piece of bubble gum? But it's an easy choice to make. Think of themselves last. Combat leaders, at the end of the day, those are simple truths. Simple, not easy. And so my hope is that you will engage. You will engage in the fight that's out there, wherever out there is for you. But also, here's what I want you to know as we transition into that first part. You were made to be a warrior. At the end of the day, the battle's hard. I'm standing up here as a wounded guy. All right? In a fight, you not only get to hit people, but people get to hit you. And if you're going to survive, there has to be more to you than just a fighter. You see, there's a difference in a fighter and a warrior. The warrior is the second layer of that onion, who understands not only what they're doing and how they're doing it, but who they are and why they're doing it. And so if you want to become a combat leader, if you want to engage your world out there, whether that's your home, your business, for some of you, perhaps it might be potentially the military now or current or future in the military, or others, law enforcement, fire, all of the real sense that we, think of the word combat. It's going to take becoming a warrior. But regardless of your job or your past experience or your future hopes, you were made to be a warrior. And I want to give you, I call these the core, core truths, 7 cores of a warrior. And at the end of the day, you were made to be a warrior. So therefore, if you want to become a warrior in your home, a warrior at work, a warrior in your community, a warrior at church, a warrior in your kid's school, these are core elements that I would strongly encourage you to evaluate. Yes, that defines me. No, I'm missing that one. Because you see, I learned these not in Afghanistan when I got hurt. I learned these in the recovery process from Jim, the milkshake man. Jim brought milkshakes every Sunday to Walter Reed. And one day, Jim sat down on my chair and said, CJ, can I take a break, man? I said, sure. Jim was in his 60s. I just thought he was old and he'd take a break. Some of you 60-year-olds are like, you better get out of here, kid. And you see, when Jim sat down, his pants came up a little bit. And I saw Jim's 2 metal ankles. I said, Jim, man, I thought we were tight. I've known you for a couple months. I drink these nasty milkshakes every Sunday. What happened? They said, well, I got hit with a mortar round in Vietnam. And came home and said, I'm going to celebrate every day I'm alive. And that was how he made an impact. Or I learned it from a lady whose name I still have in my phone, Miss Martha Beringer, who is from Annapolis, Maryland, whose brother died in World War II as a member of the 101st Airborne Division. And as an 85-year-old woman, she was visiting Walter Reed, checking in on all the 101st Airborne soldiers that were hurt. You see, I learned how to be a warrior when I got hurt, not in the process of combat. Encouragements for you to get out into combat. But if you're going to become a warrior, it's going to be in a time of trial. It's going to be in a time when the Black Hawk goes down, or it's going to be in a time when you get hurt. And here are 7 cores that I hope you will be able to define yourself as. The first is a cause. Warriors have a transcendent belief about life that is bigger than themselves, bigger than yourself. That's why if you turn on a football game, chances are one of the guys in the booth is a former player. He was a part of something bigger than himself. He didn't know how to do anything else. You got to have a cause that you believe in. It's bigger than you. If life's just about you, it's going to end lonely. Second is choice. Warriors have a cause, and then warriors make a choice. Choice is an action you take to give up personal liberties for the sake of others. Just mentioned that bubble gum, that MRE. Give up personal liberties for the sake of others. Got to make a choice. Third is warriors make a commitment. Commitment is a personal decision towards a cause that cannot be undone. See, in our society, we have 2 types of commitments. I call them, there's diving board commitment. Y'all know what I'm talking about? That little 5-year-old gets on that diving board and he hangs out for like 30 minutes, all the while just to walk back down that ladder. That's diving board commitment. Versus roller coaster commitment. Once you start hearing the too late, you're in it. You might as well open your eyes and enjoy the ride. You're in it. Make the roller coaster commitment to whatever that cause is and whatever you choose. Commit. Fourth is warriors have a course of action. The plan, needed skills, and actions required to successfully carry out your mission. Whatever your purpose is, you need to have a plan. What was that Herm Edwards that said a hope without a plan is a wish? Don't wish your way through life. If you got a hope, make a plan. Work at it. You got to have a course of action. Warriors have a community. Community is the group you belong to and represent with your actions. We'd rather be in company during chaos and discomfort. We would. Rather than be alone in peace and comfort. Human nature is we would rather be around others, even if that means discomfort and pain, versus being peaceful and comfortable all by ourselves. We were made for a community. That's why 21-year-olds would rather be in Afghanistan, where there's no electricity, no running water, no pizza, no girls, no ESPN, because they're surrounded by brothers. They're in a community that loves them and would do anything for them, than rather come back here in a society where we can do anything we want, usually by ourselves. It's a community. Sixth, warriors have a creed. Creed. A set of principles that guide your decisions regardless of the circumstances you find yourself in. Out at camp, we like to say, do the right thing the right way right now. Repeat. Mr. CJ, I don't know what to do. Do the right thing the right way right now. I know it's going to change. Do the right thing. Whatever you believe to be the right thing. But in order for you to be able to do that, you got to know, this is my creed. This is what I will live by. Part of my personal one is I will get up every time I'm knocked down. And even if I'm alone, I will fight for what's right with a smile on my face. Period. I'm going to be smiling at some point in this process. Not always going to like it. Not always going to sign up for it. This is not necessarily the story I would have signed up to have. But I have it. Now what? Have a creed and let it guide you when chaos hits. Seventh, warriors have a courageous belief. An anchor that gives you hope amidst chaos, danger, and the unknown. Your hope can't be in yourself or this life alone. It's got to be in something bigger. Otherwise, it's going to stop. I'm not saying that's bad or wrong. I'm just saying it's incomplete. You see, I just gave you the 7 C's that are core to a warrior. See, there's 7 C's that are core to a Christ follower too. They have a cause. They make a choice. Make a commitment. Have a course of action. Have a community. Live by a creed. And we have a courageous belief. Because you see, you were made to be a warrior. Not necessarily in the military, not necessarily in whatever circumstances you find yourself in today, but true to who you are as a person, you were made to be a warrior. At home, family, personally, spiritually, in your own life. You were made to be a warrior. I want to end with this. You have a card on your table. They referenced it a little earlier. YBL wants to link up with you. If you don't have a community, they want you in theirs. Part of being a warrior is that you have a community that you belong to. It's not just about you. My encouragement for you would be to join a community. And I'm humbled to be here, and I'm pretty confident at the same time. They trust me enough to say this, that if YBL is not the community you want, find one. You need to be in a community that seeks to serve a purpose bigger than this life. Second, camp downrange. CJ, we want to help you. You know, this is what we do now. In the summertime, we run the Manhood Academy for teenage guys, where it's a pretty incredible experience. I like to describe it as the most fun a teenage boy will have doing something they may never want to do again. That's true. A couple of them might even have that tattooed on them. But the reality is when they experience that truth and then they're taught where it comes from, then it goes with them. Rather than just telling them where to Google it. Come experience it. You talk about trial and needing help, an 80-pound sandbag and 25 miles will do that to you. But also, through basic trainings and groups coming out, we've been able to engage and impact the lives of families, whole families. The father-son relationship, the marriage relationship, the workplace environment. You see it every day in combat, at work. And so we would love to help train up in whatever regard that is out at camp, however we can serve in that capacity. That's why we're here. You see, I had a 15-year-old kid challenge me one time. He said, Mr. CJ, he said, if you could go back to the 101st Airborne Division and to Afghanistan or go run camp downrange, which one would you choose? And I laughed and said, that's why God didn't give me a choice. I'm not a good test taker. But I said, I'm thankful each and every day we get to make a choice now to still fight, to still serve, and to still make an impact in areas where there is darkness. Not southern Afghanistan, central Mississippi. And in the lives of the next generation, and the lives of today, of leaders, of those making decisions in the workplace and at home. And so my encouragement for you, as you leave, is to get connected, but also know you were made to be a warrior. There's a battle out there whether you like it or not. And I hope you're ready to win the fight of your life whenever it comes. I had to get blown up to meet you. Again, I wouldn't have signed up for that. But I'm thankful I was able to. And if that means you leave this place, beginning that process to becoming the warrior that you were made to be, I'd do it again. Thank you.